Alright, welcome back. A little bit longer of a break, but same amount of commercials. It sounds like it's raining. Hi, cat. It is raining. Okay. It's raining. Paula's gonna get wet. He's over there. I can't see him. Trust me, in that blinding white lights, there's a white cat there. Alright, so I see some opinions for who to cast next, and all of them seem like good ones, except that the other opponent isn't quite ready. Some people asking for Juggernaut Jason, that might be good against Desro. Kelazur, of course. Nice Terran. Johnstone versus Mechanic is what I'm kind of thinking of. Unless Mini Razor, Zan, and Slayer's Bone of Cutterbear can go ahead and finish up, like, beside each other. That would be great. But I missed the window for Suppy versus Bubble Dick, so, you know, good luck to them, or something. Oh, it's really gonna start raining, isn't it? Okay. It's not, you know, I didn't have the window open because I was warm. I had it because I was cold, and it was letting heat in, which is really nice. And now it's gonna get cold again. So we got some people getting out of game. I see Creature getting out of game. That's who potentially might be facing Kelazur. I see faults in the channel. Everyone just hangs out in the BaseTradeTV channel sometimes, and it's just taking up the spots, throwing me off. Swear to God. Phoenix, 1985, thanks for subbing. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. Darn. Okay, hold on 1 second. We're gonna get out of this overlay because reasons. So just rather copy-paste the CLR browser. Okay, I'm gonna get back out of the game. Okay. CLR browser. And yeah. Okay. Now that should appear whenever someone subs. Put it in game 2. The wonders of production, live for your pleasure. I think I put it somewhere over there. A little bit out of the way, but you know, still noticeable to give thanks. Okay, so now whenever someone subs, I should first of all hear it, and then it should pop up. But thank you for the resub of 11 months. Actually, speaking of almost having your Partoof at 12 months, full year, I actually sent out Partoofs today. Looks like I also missed Iveson for the 4-month resub. Sorry about that, probably during the game or just when I wasn't looking. But I sent out all the Partoofs. I think I sent out 22 Partoofs. I covered the American ones up until like a week and a half ago, and all of the overseas ones / Canada ones that were on there as well. So if in the last week and a half you put your name on the list, then I probably missed it, and you're gonna have to wait for maybe the end of the month. I still have like 9 Partoofs left, but as Rifkin has been repeating in every single cast, we're actually still trying to get another supply, another bag basically, of Partoofs, because we've actually run out. You guys have, like, so many people have subbed for over 12 months, and then we have just run out, and we started off with like 400 plus. Like, we didn't get, you know, a small bag or anything like that, so that's really awesome. Oh, I want to get Creature. Okay, I'm gonna cast you versus Kel. Let me get Kelazur as well. He's been waiting. I think he waited too long and he's kicked out of the lobby. Or the chat channel. Okay, well, I told Creature, so hopefully if he's talking to him, you can tell him for me. But anyways, so yeah, really cool that we've been able to use them all, but we also had some trouble contacting the same company, you know, to get the exact same Partoof. I think they finally replied to Rifkin, like, yesterday or something on the cast, and hopefully that means we'll be getting them soon enough. So hopefully we won't be without sending out Partoofs for very long. Oh, damn it. Okay, so apparently Kelazur has to play a clan match on Europe. Okay. So that probably only started like 2 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago with a delay. That sucks. That was going to be a smooth enough ride to pretend that I love downtime, but without that, I don't know what to do. I really would like for the bottom bracket to also advance, since the top and middle, you know, did such a good job about that, but apparently it's not happening super quick. Aren't I sitting? No, I'm actually standing. This is a standing desk, which I highly recommend because, well, sometimes you get really sick of sitting all the time. And it's good for you. Sitting all the time is bad for your health or something. I'm sure there's the science. Oh, today I had the best idea, guys. As we wait for whatever next match might come up, and I'm gonna fill downtime, and I'm not gonna go to a break screen like a wuss. I came with the greatest idea. I got diet root beer and Halo Top ice cream. If anyone is calorie conscious, you know what that is, but it's just really like light calorie but delicious ice cream. And I made a root beer float that was only like 60 calories. It was the greatest, and I had that for lunch. So if I throw up because it was sweet and very fake, now you know why. I don't feel that bad though. It's probably okay. Probably. Dun, dun, dun. That was my only idea. Good idea for the past, like, month or something. My other good idea in the past month was putting pepperoni on my sandwich. Yeah, that was a good idea. You know, originally I wasn't convinced that I talked about food that much when the Ace food came up. And I definitely didn't want a hot dog on that emote. So I lobbied to get rid of the hot dog, but I can see why they kept the emote in general. Yeah. Well, I guess other things that are happening, of course. We have Bales versus Silky. I know someone asked for a Protoss, so. Hey, I wanna cast you versus Silky. And you can't project me because I'm the only caster, so. When I say I want to, I mean you have to. Hey, Reamar, thanks for the 1,000 per juice. Alright, so no bad news on that front yet. Hopefully we're actually getting to that game and they'll set the lobby up and whatnot. Cool, now we got something done. But I was going to say, since we have downtime, I might as well just start talking about sponsors and selling out like the big sellout that we are. But just one in particular. So, of course, this is sponsored by TING, which is really awesome. And I'll go over, you know, more and more about how they're awesome. And I'll also show videos and then further downtime if you guys aren't quite sure what it is. But the arcade block raffle that we have going is still going for another like 13 days or something like that. So if you are interested in like any of those monthly boxes that you see, this one is like, you know, video games, horror, movies, like comics, I think, or something like that. If you end up actually being interested enough to buy one, and so I think it's $20 per month, you send BaseTradeTV a PM with the receipt, you'll be entered into a raffle that has a lot of I don't know, like signatures. Basically, it's a Risk board game, the StarCraft 2 one, which in itself is really cool if you're into, you know, playing Risk or just collecting StarCraft 2 things. But it has like a ton of signatures from everyone that we met at Austin. So like all the casters, a ton of players, including Neeb. Just speaking of, you know, Ting and whatnot, and I definitely think it'd be worth it. I still collect signatures, and at this point, everyone that I collect signatures from, I kind of know. So it makes it a little bit awkward, but I like donated to the King of the North Indiegogo just because I wanted the mouse pad that had everyone's signature from that tournament. I don't know, I really like signatures apparently. And I guess on the subject of Neeb and Ting and all of that, I did mention this is the last qualifier. So with that, we're going to go ahead and send out the invites that are left over. Tomorrow we cast the Korean group, which is looking really cool, 8 a.m. EST, so early in the morning for us. But we already have those, not, you know, not really, I don't know if the word invites is correct, right? Because invites is mostly for the group. So we have people that did well last season of Ting filling in those round of 16 groups, I do believe. I've already kind of forgotten how our format went down. But yeah, so we kind of had to, like, you know, do a bunch of... in order to get... I forget who everyone was, but, you know, Snoop, Mana, and then 2 others, can't remember. To actually get them seated in, we had to add another day to our group stage, basically, which I hope no one's going to be really upset about. Another day of really cool StarCraft. Oh no. Here we go, get in the game. But it is like, so the first person that you see get out of the group first in groups, like in the GSL and SSL and whatever, right? Like very typical stuff. That's the same. But then the second person in the group actually will have to play another day against the other second place people to get their qualifying spot into the round of 16 groups. So I'm pretty sure this has been done before. It's not like it's super brand new or super complicated to understand, but that's just a little thing that we added on to, because we wanted to have the same people that did so well in the last TING Open come back, especially because the people who did so well last season created some really cool storylines. I mean, it wasn't just the Koreans stomping over everyone, and Mana, you know, coming up at the time where, I mean, we had like 2 Protoss or something like that in the last season actually do really, really well. Was cool to watch, so it's kind of, I guess, our thank you of being awesome players. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready. Some people just, you know, will assume that Rifkin has to come as well, which is a totally safe assumption, like 99% of the time. There you go. That's all they need to hear. We're ready to go into Arena, Bales versus Silky. So when thanks to Ting for hosting this. And Arena is a very odd map choice, I suppose. It's funny, in the last, like, 7 days, we've seen Arena maybe 3 times, and once was forced by the Alima League, or twice was forced even, maybe. Corsair and Alima League both forced it, I think. So it's not very widely chosen, and this is a veto process where they just veto out maps, and the the leftovers are chosen in order, so this is actually just basically not vetoed by either one of them. We'll see how this best of 3 turns out. In the top left, as the blue Protoss, he is Flipside Tactics Bales. And in the bottom left, at teammates, it's the red Zerg Silky. If you guys don't know, there's kind of a funny, like, I don't know what you call it, like, history of BaseTradeTV, and I'm talking about, well, actually, me, Rifkin, and Fear Dragon. So, Fear Dragon was actually casting a lot with, well, not a lot with me, but like the same tournaments as I was back in the day before BaseTradeTV, and a lot of those are North American Cups, so a lot of Clarity stuff, if anyone remembers that team, that's a long time ago, the URTL, and all those pretty old North American teams. I guess they're well practiced with each other. So, these names are actually very familiar to me. They're obviously still a lot more familiar to Fear Dragon, who does, you know, he covers a lot of their NA tournaments when we can't, like over the past weekend. He does, of course, his breaking out stuff, so, I mean, he knows his players, like, inside and out, but I still remember them, like, you know, very fondly for, like, the past 3-4 years, something like that, you know? Like, these names are actually familiar to me, whereas Rifkin was casting all of, like, the European tournaments, like the Zotac Cup and the Go for StarCraft and stuff like that, so he was the one that first introduced me to all the, like, European names, and I'd be like, he'd be like, yeah, you know him, don't you? And I'd be like, question mark? I just had no idea. Now I'm definitely as well-versed in Europeans as he is, because that's most of what we cast. Which is always nice to see an NA qualifier, and especially nowadays, am I right, a Korean qualifier, which, again, the Korean group is happening tomorrow, and I'm very excited about that. Looks like I got a donation, which is very nice. Riamar donated $50 and said hi, which sounds about right. Riamar deserves an extra special AceTC in chat because not only did he just donate to me, and Rifkin, we donated to BaseTradeTV, he donated like so much money to help Rifkin with his wisdom teeth. So he's been a great help. I know he's been in the hospital lately too, so he has his own, you know, problems, but I guess that European healthcare means that it's he's still got money to be the kind person that he is. Seriously awesome guy, so ACC all around. And there's actually not that much going on in this game, so... I guess it is arena. I thought maybe someone would go for a more aggressive opener right off the start, but it looks like they're holding off at least until the mid-game. You know, if this was TvZ, I'd be like, hey, where's the roaches, like, super early on. But PvZ, I guess it is less common to have that really early game attack from the Zerg player, and more about that mid-game attack with a lot of roaches, basically, roaches and ravagers. Occasionally, we also see mutas or muta transition on this map, too. And it can be very sneaky. Obviously, at any point, a Protoss doesn't scout mutas, and they didn't open with a Stargate, which is what happened here for Bales. It can be a problem, so he's got to be wary of that at the very least. But I think first and foremost, every Protoss on this map is thinking, how do I get my third safely? Because there's not much I'm doing against him right now. You know, Bales could have done an all-in or something to really stop him from doing a big attack, but he didn't. So I guess the third base is now, up for question. And it's not that it's very far away, but this ramp creates a lot of hassle because you want to wall it off first, and now your unit's going to go through a choke, and you got to get your pylons actually on the low ground down here to actually be in range for a real fight, and it's just a little bit complicated. And of course, with being such a short distance, the roach all-in, should it happen, apparently it's not, we've been this on the way, can just come very, very quickly. So I did wonder about this earlier robo, and it is going to be for Warp Prism, but also for the robotics base. They're going to be opening up with Disruptors first. Not totally uncommon, just a little less common than, their Stargate openers, as I said before. Or, Adept openers, Adept aggression. This is a very tiny amount of units, and it's actually a very odd push that I don't believe I've seen so much before. I've definitely seen a couple of very small immortal pushes through the middle of the map that have actually ended games and they're really not supposed to. But that was just 4 units. Really glad you brought the Mothership Core. Was definitely going to have to recall, but I can see that being so surprising. It does get quite a few drone kills. I could definitely see that. Silky with Overlord speed, by the way, is now set up to either potentially Baneling drop or just have really good scouting. So, I keep on mentioning these mutas, right? Now they went for Lings. It's not that it's a higher possibility. I think mutas can come out kind of whenever a Zerg really wants, but it definitely could come out. And with all the scouting saying, hey, you don't have a Stargate, you don't have a Stargate, you're going for Disruptors, which obviously can't hit air. Trying to get to a Spire could be possible, but it is really about getting to that Spire, because, his lair wasn't even started, So that's a lot of time that Bales could scout, get Blink, probably not get a Stargate, but, actually prepare against any surprises for the next 2 minutes. And there's this third going down. With only Lings, it was kind of like an assured third base, to be honest. With the Banelings, it's a little more complicated, but even then, if your SimCity's already up, it's going to have to be a very big committal of Banelings to really bust you on this third base here. And I just don't see that happening. Especially because this Warp Prism's supposed to try and distract. The Disruptor is picked up, unfortunately doesn't really get anything from the shot. This has just got to live for as long as possible, though, is its main goal. Looks like Bale's trying to do a bit of a wombo combo. Again, it's not exactly like a great amount of units, so even just a handful of Banelings and these Lings is a little scary. So he's just back off. There's Blink. Usually what pairs up with Disruptors, so it's a Charged Immortal Archon, or it's Blink Stalker Disruptor. You think about PvP, you think about, actually even PvT, even PvZ, but of course most people are very used to the Immortal Charge Lot Archon composition. It's definitely the most usual one. Looks like I missed what was a decent damage done. Couple of drones, couple Lings. We do not have the mod on, and it looks like 5 drones have gone down, so really not that many. Oh no, but this was so much more important. Damn it. I forgot, I saw the production tab make a drop Overlord, and I talked about Baneling drops, and then I forgot to actually look for it. But it looks like Bales also did a good job of pulling away. So it is just 5 workers killed to 2, so actually do that much damage. There's actually drops going off everywhere that have like an immense amount of potential for damage, and thankfully not much damage is happening, because I feel like this was killing 20 drones or 15 Banelings, something like that. You guys would be yelling at me. But it's not a lot, so don't yell at me, please. The continuation of this build, of course, 4th base on the way for Silky, you're done, actually. 69 drones, and that's a really good amount. Same for Bales, though. His 3rd base is looking well saturated. He's just not getting the gases, getting a little bit more SimCity, too. That's going to help out potentially with the Banelings, first and foremost, but you don't really want to be choked in back here at this point. You want to try and be meeting them halfway, literally halfway. These force fields have to be good. Unfortunately, the adepts probably will be sacrificed at some point, just because they'll be on the front lines. But the stalkers are kind of key. They're obviously not going to be doing immense amount of splash damage, because they don't do splash damage. But they will be able to actually shoot over the force fields, first of all, something that charge lots actually can't do. And they'll also be able to split via blink, or just run away via blink, if things go really south with this Baneling composition. And it is Baneling Hydra. And this is a good Protoss army. Again, it depends a lot on those force fields actually doing timed correctly. But, I mean, this army size, Disruptor gets any amount of hits, and it's kind of split into it. That was a little bit of a mistake. And I think Bale's army is going to look quite good. He's got a 20 army supply lead. He's got a good composition against what Silky has. Obviously doesn't have much, you know, anti-Hydra. Those Disruptors are probably not going to get that many good hits. But enough Blink Stalkers, you know, Immortals will still soak up a lot, and Guardian Shield's going to really help as well. And the Hydras still aren't that much of a problem. Now, these units aren't very upgraded. That's the one thing that's very odd for a Protoss army, is not to have at least +1 with Blink Stalkers. That's something that Silky might be able to help hold here, and he got a Spinecrawler as well, just adding a little tiny bit of damage. Once again, a decent Disruptor shot. But it's now +2 melee with +1. We do see just more and more Zergs going for all of the attack upgrades with this very explosive, aggressive composition. But Bale's already being in control kind of spells like maybe Silky wasn't... The pacing of his game isn't really, you know, it isn't doing so hot, basically. Like, to have the Protoss feel so comfortable pushing into this composition... It just doesn't feel right, you know? It's usually the Protoss who's like, oh my god, they're gonna hit me with like 15,000 Banelings and I'm gonna die. But maybe I'm just thinking of Snoot too often, because that's certainly what happened with his games. This is a very delicate procedure. Actually, it's gonna try and cut off... Oh, that was almost a really good Disruptor hit, but it loses the Disruptor for it. The Blinks were a little bit late, and so were the Force Fields. I really liked his plan. He almost cut off a good chunk of Hydralisk over here, but didn't quite work out. He was just a little bit too scared to step forward and put that force field down. So still wants to try and catch the army split in half, but every single time he tries to, he gets concaved upon. There isn't much fodder left over for these Hydras, and Lurkers did not end up finishing, so... this is a bit of a problem. Again, Silky, I feel at this point, with Bale's army, you would be hoping to either be maxed out yourself, and Silky's not, or on your way to a greater spire, which again, he is not. Actual engagement kind of goes down here, another Disruptor goes down, but an aggressive blink forward, that is so dangerous to do against someone you know is going for Banelings, but there actually weren't any Banelings left over, and I guess his Observer saw that, so a very aggressive blink forward, but one that'll probably work out. If his Immortals actually are the ones on the front lines, very dangerous, then they will just chunk through those Lurkers, no problem. They'll also soak up the damage, or Disruptor can hit both of them. That's cool too, and it looks like Bales, with this push, is going to be able to win this first game. Looking very strong and confident as well, and I don't know if that's just kudos to him and his good harassment, because he was poking and prodding and, you know, the Warp Prism thing happened, or if it was Silky just missing out on his big opportunity for that, you know, either the huge Baneling bust or the huge Hydra Baneling attack. Like, GG. First game goes to Bales. To remind everyone, in case you were here for the first season but not this season or something like that, this is not double elimination. We did do that last season. It just seemed like, first of all, it was going to give us a lot more games. You know, I was looking to cast more, and then, you know, a lot of people seem to ask for it, you know, like, you know, WCS comes up and stuff like that. But the feedback we actually got after the fact, and even during, actually, was that Koreans really hated double elimination, so a lot of them were dropping out in the losers bracket, and no one else was like a super huge fan either, not enough to try and keep it. And those European casts were so long, like god, they were 8+ hours. It was great. So we just put it back down to single elimination. So no second chances here. I will say that the only second chance, quote unquote, is going to be an invite. So again, for those of you who don't know us maybe or weren't here, we really liked the idea of being able to reward people for participating in our qualifiers. You know, a lot of other tournaments will invite big names first, qualifiers later, they all, you know, they clash, and that's, you know, a fine way to go. It builds up hype for your event in general. But what we like to do is build up, I guess, hype later, see what people have to offer, and try and get them back in. You know, maybe they looked great versus Terran, but then they met versus Zerg, and they just barely didn't make it or something like that. And we were looking forward to really, I guess, encouraging that. So we always encourage people to sign up and play, you know, because even if they should be a shoo-in for the invite, it's not actually necessarily the case. This season we are kind of stepping a little bit out of it, though. We aren't necessarily only inviting people that participated, which I think we found a pretty happy medium. So for instance, if you guys didn't hear, SOS actually being in our groups is pretty damn cool, but he didn't participate in this season. He participated in last season's qualifier, and he looked really fun. Not just that he's good, guys. He looked, in kind of a stupid way to be honest, really, really fun. He was doing really weird stuff. Anyways, enough about that. I think I'm just really hyped with the Korean groups tomorrow, because I keep on mentioning them all the time. We are into the second game. It's going to be on King Sejong, and up in the top left, he is up 1. It is the blue Protoss, Bales. In the bottom right, as the red Zerg, he is Silky. I thought it was going to get cold. It actually got nicely hot, so off comes the socks. Sexy times. Totally. Alright, so last game, for the first like 2 or 3 minutes, we actually saw Silky say, "Not this time," or something like that. Which leads me to believe that these guys actually play against each other. It's kind of funny. When I was in StarCraft for the first, like, year, I just assumed that teams meant they were always practicing with each other. Like, that's the whole purpose of teams, right? Not actually the case. A lot of times for these kind of, you know, for teams that aren't actually in a team house, which are most teams that aren't in Korea, they don't necessarily have those practice days with each other. It is more just about having the opportunity to talk to someone, or having maybe that one day we want a practice partner to practice against something. It's less about, you know, practicing every single day with your team. So I imagine that either are good friends and they practice together, or they just meet each other a lot on ladder, which could be possible as well. Any ladder is not exactly super duper great, but it is getting better and better with the qualification spots, the whatever they're called for the WCS events, and, you know, things like the Fear Dragons breaking out. It is better, and I think that people are, you know, practicing on NA, but also a lot of people have like barcodes on Korea and whatnot. So I don't know their history enough, but I assume that they're friendly, and being on the same team, they do seem to know a little bit about each other's playstyles. Bales looked very strong. Maybe he knows that Silky wasn't a super aggressive player, or maybe he knows that Silky just doesn't have very good DVP. Or maybe that was a bad map for Silky, and he kind of wished that he had vetoed Arena, not sure. I think about Arena, in a lot of cases, it's that it's less about someone very much hoping to have it. It's more about using your 2 vetoes wisely, and then hoping their veto is the map, the third map you don't want, you know? Lesser of evils, but you still don't want it. And that just might not have happened for either of them. And they accidentally let Arena through. But of course it was the first map chosen, so someone must have liked it. Anyway, Stargate is coming down this game. One thing that was missing from last game. Kept mentioning mutas. Silky didn't want to go mutas. He wanted to go for that Ling Baneling Hydralisk style that we've been seeing, and it didn't work out. I'm not saying that Aspire would have either, because you got Aspire, and it's hard to defend, you know? Like, the Protoss tries to attack you, and, you know, what are you going to do if they're just... It's a 5-second warp in and 5-second reinforcement line on Arena. So I'm not saying that's, like, you know, a bad thing, but this is usually just the first defense against the idea of transitioning to mutas. Even if you don't get Phoenixes right off the bat, at least you have a Stargate. It is going to be an Oracle, though. Looks like, of course, Silky with his Overlord is just going to go ahead and make a couple of Spore Crawlers, so it's not going to do very much for the drone line. Also getting quite a handful of Lings. Now, I really don't think this is going to be an all-in. I think he's hoping to catch Bales get a third base a little too greedily. Which, if Bales is going to try and get a base right now, that would just be... That'd be too greedy. I don't know what he would be thinking. But if he tried to, like, yeah, for instance, send his 2 Adepts out because he thought maybe there'd be, like, 4 or 5 Lings, then they would have died. In fact, one of them still gets surrounded, but Mothership Core pops a overcharge. Oracle does get denied. So, it's still good scouting, and he sees Bale's intention to take a third base, right, with this probe being out here. So, you know, now Bale's is a little bit scared, like, is it all in, is it not? Now you should know, just with the Oracle scouting, that there's no more Lings on the way, but he's gonna have to first warp in once or twice, then move out, and that's honestly to be expected on King Sejong. Once again, I'm surprised he's into the probe out, like, he's gonna die. Because it is a bit farther of a third base. You know, this is still one of the most balanced maps we've ever had, and certainly it's really cool to see it again in Legacy of the Void, but there was always and will always be an issue for the slower race to power up, and it's usually Protoss, to get this third base, so just a little bit later than Bales would have liked. He has 2 Oracles. These could actually just try and focus down whatever they want, to be honest. Maybe a Queen, you know, just try and focus on a couple of drones, and then micro one back, but not really doing too much at all. They could also be used in a last ditch scenario to attack the Lings, if there was a Ling all-in happening, but there's not. Silky is going for a Baneling Nest and that +1 melee, so it looks like he's really gonna stick to that Ling Baneling Hydra. We have Bales with a double robo coming down at his third base, which always seems so dangerous, but usually works out in favor of the Protoss because they have instant immortal reinforcements or instant observer reinforcements. Just, it always looks so scary. And what's so weird about this thing is this third base is this little crevasse or whatever. Like, that really, it splits up the Protoss a little bit, it splits up the Zerg intentionally as they try and go to the left, and then they try and go over to the right, swipe off gateways. I mean, this is a very common contention point when King Sejong was in the map pool last. That's why I'm a little worried to see the Robos here. But honestly, where else do you put it? Do you put the Robos back here, they break on the back rock, suddenly you're screwed? Because that's another thing about King Sejong. They have options. These Lings could, and should probably, be trying to attack the rocks without Bales noticing, but not thinking about it right now, just figuring he couldn't be able to get them down anyway. Campus upgrade, that missile. I wonder if that means anything different? No. Okay. With the double attack upgrades, it almost always is going to be the Zerg being aggressive, and that was one of the things I found really odd about last game, was that Silky was never really aggressive. I don't think Bales really sweated it at all in that game. And that might have been because of the Disruptor and the War Prism, I'm not sure. But it also seems to be what Zergs are doing all the time now, to be honest. Whether they actually go for the attack, or they go for, like, Broodlords really quickly, like we saw Blythe do a couple of days ago. But seeing the Carapace upgrade again, it's like an old friend, I suppose. Like, oh, hey, how you doing? Your thing that, you know, upgrades all the units. You're sometimes pretty good to have. That is going to be coming in later, though. Definitely be waiting for the Lurker Den, and if Bales sees this, which I think his Oracles have seen, just haven't, you know, thrown a revelation on it, yeah. Then he knows he probably has the time for the Lurker Den to finish to be safe, and very shortly around that time, he'll have to worry maybe about a concave and an attack. And then, you know, the morphing of the actual Lurkers. But I'm glad that many people, many pro gamers, are just remembering all the tips and tricks about this map. So, oh, the slowest Baneling drop ever, and it was reacted to very well by Bales. Good job there. But yeah, all the tricks about this map, you know, like, so making sure that you do have something covering in the back rocks, at least a pylon in Legacy of the Void's cases. The ramp being a force field area, so to just halt an attack a little bit so that you aren't overwhelmed immediately, that can also be something really good. And of course, having something detecting, you know, vision over here, which is the only thing I would say Bales is missing, because he doesn't have the Zalnaga. But he is the one pushing again. So it's Silky going to be defending, and he doesn't quite have his Lurkers prepared. His upgrade almost done on those Lings and Banelings, but with the sentries being there, it's always so difficult to actually get them to connect. We don't have Blink or Charge. As you can see, with the +1 armor on the way, Bales just did not go for a Twilight Council, so he can't upgrade past that +1. But this is hitting fast and strong. It has quite a few immortals. It has more than enough sentries. If Bales misclicks once and loses all these sentries, like that, that would be pretty devastating. But even if that happens, there's still a very large number of Stalkers and Immortals. Remember, they aren't Blink Stalkers, not as powerful as they could be, but they're still a nice number. The Lurkers have finished up, and the Hydras are getting their shots in. All of the Immortal barriers are down, and this might just be enough. No, the Lurkers get chunked away really quickly from the leftover Immortals. It is so close. Now Silky is targeting those Immortals on purpose, and only Stalkers left. Only regular Stalkers are left. This is also the 4th base, not the 3rd, so even if Silky lost it, I think if he saved the drones at BAK, or vice versa, but he is rallying Hydras in. He's trying to get the War Prism. He gets the War Prism. That is pretty damn key here. And Bales, he can try and run away, but the Ling should be able to catch these Stalkers. Oh, I love these. I don't know if these were intentionally set for the potential runaway, retreat, or if it was just in case Silky overdedicated a little bit with the Banelings. But either way, they're going to work out. He can now escape kind of freely here. If Silky does try and chase with the Lings, they'll just get caught in it. But that was a really good hold from Silky. And Bales, he wasn't all in the sense that he cut workers or he, doesn't have a 3rd base. But at this point, his technology is really far behind where it should be. His upgrades will start falling behind because he doesn't have that Toilet Council to advance them. His 4th base is also later than you would really want. He's going to get it on the kind of the offensive 4th base, but the same way that Silky did. So their pathways to each other to attack and defend are very, very close, and they could create a very dynamic game. Stasis Trap did go off on the Lurkers, which is kind of nice. Gets one, not quite for free, and the Banelings roll in as well. Last minute splits aren't bad, but the War Prism once again targeted by those Hydras. Nicely done by Silky. He is holding on. That amount of Blink Stalkers, it's scary. That amount of regular Stalkers, Ling Hydra's always going to do very well against. And now the Lurkers are advancing, and that's it. GG. Silky holds and takes us to the ace match. Alright, so we are going to be waiting for the invites. I'll go ahead and pop off to a very quick commercial break. Hope you guys are enjoying the solo cast. See you in 2 minutes. Alright, welcome back. Thanks for watching those ads. And we are just waiting on Silky, who went to go get some water, which was perfectly timed for me. I don't mind. Nice little break from talking. And that was a really cool last game, gotta say. The way that Bales handled the first game, I was a little worried that Silky just wasn't feeling this specific matchup, I suppose. But no, that looked really good. Bales mixed things up. He went for a different opener, he went for a different timed attack, and that's a good way to play, but that time that didn't work out. Silky was just able to hold just enough. Looks like we're just waiting on Bales now to hit the go button. Go, 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 go. If you are recently tuning in and are wondering why I'm solo casting, it is because Rifkin has severe allergies. I'm not kidding. He actually has allergies so bad they couldn't do tests on him, and he can't cast because he's sniffling and sneezing everywhere. So, of course, I didn't mind stepping in. He stepped in last weekend. Fair Dragon stepped in this past weekend. All that good stuff. And solo casting the NA Qualifier really isn't so bad. It's not that long of a tournament. Most of the time. Alright, we are now 1-1 on the last map for these two teammates. In the bottom right on Frozen Temple, it is the blue Protoss Bales. In the top left, as the red Zerg, he is Silky. Alright, Frozen Temple. Wait, how do we do this? We went Arena first, which is kind of funny, being the, definitely the weirder of all the maps we've seen. King Sejong second, which is becoming more and more popular as I feel more people get, realize it's in the ladder, and also are familiar with it again. Like, they've kind of forgotten one or two things about the little tricks about the map, and now they've remembered, they're willing to choose it. Frozen Temple, being that third map, is actually probably the most standard of them all. It's not quite Dusk Towers, but it's almost like that. And it's like the reverse order of what you would usually see things done, I suppose. But being the third map and being a pretty safe one, shall we say, might be nice for Bales. The third base isn't that much easier to take, because it kind of has this kind of cliff to go around, but we'll see if he'll mix things up again with his builds, or that Silky will even try and stop it again. Because he only stopped it for like 45 seconds or something like that the last game. Wasn't too bad of a delay. There is one or two tricky things about Frozen Temple versus Zerg, though, specifically. And I guess kind of versus Protoss. But basically that it's really not the farthest rush distance natural to natural. So, of course, back in the day, when Zerg's just all-inning all the time and Protoss thought they could never win, they just took all those all-ins from Laralac Crest, remember that map, and they just seemed to do them on Frozen Temple. So you had, like, the creep spread in the middle of the map with the Queen slowly walking forward and the Roach Ravager attacks, and just, you know, those could occur as early as, God, like 5 minutes, and then as late as, like, you know, 10 or something like that, right? Don't see that nearly as much. You do see more macro games, more and more macro games. I said that it also could favor the Protoss, because, you know, Protoss are throwing out those Adept all-ins. We've certainly seen enough of them on this channel, not because they're so numerous, but that they're so impactful. And we might just see it again. Hey, look. But they just seem to, I mean, they're not new, right? And it still kind of holds that Protoss aren't as good as they were with 2-base all-ins. I mean, Wings of Liberty, Immortal Sentry all-in, you could scout it, you still die to it, like, a lot. Heart of the Swarm, ton of variations of all-ins, including still a Immortal Sentry all-in. You don't scout it, you die a lot. You do scout it, sometimes you still die, right? Legacy of the Void, they really seem to get cut in their power for an all-in that's scouted. Ravagers made holds easier, you know, the lack of sentries really made things easier too, I think, and just, you know, a bunch of stuff. Economy probably played a part as well. But this Adept all-in, like, we've seen it not scouted, still absolutely does damage. We've seen it scouted, which is actually what's happening right now, still does damage. I mean, we have seen it scouted and prepared for with banelings, with roaches, with spine crawlers. Nurtrio tried to just leave his third base. He went back to his natural, walled it, and he still died. Like, this Adept all-in is surprising, especially because, you know, we saw this with Mana once, or twice, actually. Thank you to Healer, woo! Great Terran player, for resubbing. We saw Mana, like, get crushed, I think, to Banelings, which are, you know, a good enough defense in the first place, you know, for the first hold. And then he just warped in, like, another 2 rounds and still ended up killing the Zerg. So this is just a very... It's easy to underestimate, I think. Especially if the control on the Adept is really good. Now I'm talking about splitting versus the Banelings and actually attacking, you know, this way and that, shades, you know, all that micro stuff. Like I said, Silky did see this. Seeing that Twilight Council so early, seeing it Chrono boosted, well, he didn't see it Chrono boosted, but still. It's going to tell you they're going to try and attack with the Adepts. Now, Bales might have wanted to put a 4th down somewhere, maybe in proxy location, or maybe just at home. I mean, hell, maybe he could have even wanted to do like a 7-gate all-in, right? But I think being scouted, he just decides, okay, I'll just slow down my gases, I'm going to transition to double Stargate, which is a very interesting choice. And I'm going to attack with what I have, which might really not be enough to do anything at all, but hopefully it'll stop my opponent from droning, or alternatively attacking me. Which, you know, usually a 3rd base goes down with that mentality, but instead it is the double Stargate. So this is going to be very interesting to see what comes out of them. Double Stargate, you know, as an opener is almost always double Phoenix, but as a, like, follow-up, I wouldn't know, but apparently it's going to be double Phoenix once again. Silky, he would have scouted this with or without that Overlord moving in there, because of course it'd just be too many Phoenix to add up for 1 Stargate. Oh, they do shade out there. And, I just don't know about this. I think this was an okay transition, because we've seen it once or twice before, on 2-base. You know, no quick 3rd. Against Roaches and Ravagers, or hell, even like, you know, Hydra pushes or Queen pushes, because, you know, lifting those very, you know, bulky key units is actually still important, and still doable, because there's less Roaches than there are Lings. Almost always. So, now that it's up against someone who's doing nothing but pure Ling, and I assume I'm gonna go Ling Bane Hydra again, because that's what he's always been going for. I don't know how well the Phoenix is going to do. They can pick up maybe a couple of key Banelings and, you know, some of those Hydras, but I don't know. I guess it's also going to be the case that Bales is just going to have a lot of time. Silky didn't try and counterattack, despite, you know, knowing he didn't have to worry about defense at home. And is probably going to be waiting for his Hydraless Den. So that's a lot of time for Bales not to only get, like, 6 or 7 Phoenix, but, I mean, really, if he wanted to go up to something extreme like 14. Or to try and transition out with like a robo and whatnot. So we'll see what happens when push actually comes to shove, because I'm only worried for Bales for the next like 2 minutes, right? And then after that, his 3rd will probably be kicked in, and, you know, maybe his immortal count has grown, and yeah, maybe he'll be all right. But still, A bit of a tricky game. I wonder, I mean, Silky has eyes on literally everything. Like, those fast overlords that gave him so much intel. I'm really surprised he didn't try and attack with the Lings, first of all. Maybe don't bring the Banelings because you're afraid of the Adepts counterattacking. Okay, that makes sense. But, you know, these Lings over here haven't done very much. And now it's too late. Or that he just didn't try and, I don't know. Just baseless on the Lings in, I suppose. That's the only other thing he could do, except his drone. Which he did. He got a 4th base. He droned up to 65 drones. He's actually looking fine on the economy front, but it looks like he's going to be waiting for the kind of old standard attack he has been waiting for. You know, +2, melee, no second upgrade this time, centrifugal hooks, maybe the Lurker Den? That could be another thing. If you don't wait for the Lurker Den, you just go all the way with Ling Hydra. Could be attacking a little bit earlier than Bales would be prepared for. But Bales really is starting to get well prepped. You know, he's got Immortals, his Sentries are getting energy, he's getting Photon Overcharges on the front lines. This is usually a very important part of the defense, is defending on the ramp. Because once they break these rocks, or they come in from the south, and that's suddenly a concave on your army. And it looks like Bales is going to be fine. Yeah, fully saturated 3rd base now. SimCity up as well. Actually going for Templar Archives pretty quickly. But Blink, because he knows what composition he's going up against. Again, these Lings not looking too useful. Oh, they get a Stalker. And I wonder if this is going to be directly to Storm, or is it going to be just for those Archons? The Phoenix count, by the way, is only going up to 7, so really not like a totally disturbing amount, but enough, I suppose, to really throw Silky off. So he hasn't really been doing much attacking at all. His Queens have been unable to spread a lot of creep. I think one got picked off on the way to the 4th base, and, you know, with enough Phoenixes, it's still, like, one Spore Crawler ain't gonna cut it. They're still gonna get a couple of drones, which has probably happened. Let's check real quick. Okay, not that many drones, I lied. But I think he's gotten 1 or 2 Overlords and all that good jazz. The 5th of Silky is taken in a very odd location. I would call this hidden, except this is a very small map with not a lot of bases, and I just think a Warp Prism could very easily go over that, but, you know, put it in the most obvious spot and then oversee it, I suppose. So it just might be fine. The typical 5th location is either this one, or, of course, the actual corner one. Just a little interesting mix-up. The Phoenixes do scout the Hive and the Infestation Pit, so we have Silky, just speaking of mixing up his 5th bases, mixing up his builds here. So going for that +2 initially, then double upgrading his Hydras, maybe looking for, I'm gonna guess, an Ultralisk Cavern, which we've talked to death about versus Protoss, don't really like it, but unless they start the Spire with the Hive, it's usually not gonna be a Greater Spire. I say that, and Bly kind of, like, maybe look like a fool because he went for the Greater Spire after the Hive was done anyway, but then he lost the game, so I'm gonna say who's the fool, because his Brood Lords were too late. This is a very big attack. Storm was done first and foremost. It wasn't just about the Archons, and they can just tear down the Banelings so easily, especially when they're pressed up against Force Fields, which were pretty damn good by Bales. He did let his Nexus kind of in a, you know, little scared position here. Oh, that choke on the Banelings was so good. But it looks like he just might be able to save it. There's not many Banelings left, but you know what? Yeah, I guess he can't take care of the Lurkers. So the 4th base will still go down. Little unfortunate there, but instantly replaced. The Phoenixes do find what was supposed to be a hidden base. I don't know, this could be like borderline hidden base slash late game mentality, you know? Starting to take minerals away from your opponent. I don't know. But with the Phoenixes knowing it's there, they could just easily pick up whatever comes over here. We'll see what happens with that. We'll watch it develop. Warp Prism is on the way to instantly reinforce. Phoenixes, they have been picking up many drones, as shown when I try to show the Workers Killed tab. So they have a lot of energy to, ideally, I think, pick up those Lurkers, but maybe a couple of key Banelings. Storms on their retreat means that Silky definitely shouldn't be following here. That was a little scary. A couple more Storms are still available as well for Bales. But he is being pushed back. Maybe use the Force Fields, I was gonna say. But lose the Sentries anyways, they're pretty damn slow. The Storms are about to die, and that's really a lot more important. The Warp Prism's finally here, so those ancient reinforcements are coming in, but where the Storms for the Immortals are losing their shields. There the Storms go. But he cannot re-engage those Lurkers without their Immortal shields. Unless they walk forward into Storms. Then he can do that. Oh, the shields actually pop on a couple of these Immortals. That was actually perfectly timed. Okay. That was worrying, but now there's no detection, so... 3 Lurkers, still live. Still push Bales back. So I guess at the end of the day, a bit of an overextension from Silky. What is he doing with that hive? Mentioned it, so maybe an Ultra's Cavern. Just a general glance right now. Well, Lings can certainly be very powerful. They can actually surround and, you know, tear down Immortals and Stalkers for sure. But they also can go ahead and do counterattacks, which is what I'm expecting more so. I mean, that's what we see from Guru. You know, he goes for those extreme lurker counts, but he also goes for a lot of counterattacks with well-upgraded Lings. Oh, that was a good chunk. That was a good chunk. There's a decent amount of lurkers. The Banelings roll into the Blink Stalkers that have already blinked, so they can't blink out, and the Immortals are left against Lings. Not really ideal. Oh god, they were all types of clumped up. Luckily, one or two of them still had their shields, but, you know, the Lings actually popped a lot of them on, like, the forefront Immortals, so a little bit of awkward engagements here and there. Nothing really going perfectly, but that's kind of to be expected for someone who's going for Banelings. I mean, there's actually so much that both of them have to do. Of course, Silky has to be really afraid of storms. That's first and foremost for him, and actually keeping the lurkers in a safe distance away. But for Bales, it's, you know, blinking your stalkers in a split. It's making sure your Immortals actually have their shields when they engage said lurkers. It's actually, you know, if he had storms, taking control of those storms, not letting them die willy-nilly. Looks like he's kind of giving up on the idea of storms. And ideally, using the Phoenix to lift up whatever he can't defeat. So, there's a lot to be done on both sides. We do have the Spire on the way. See, make me look a fool. I mean, I'm glad they aren't going for Ultras, because I really don't think Ultras are going to be good. I mean, they already have the Immortals. But to have to wait for the Spire is so long. Like, that's going to be a Spire, and then a Greater Spire, and then you can turn them into Broodlords. But between now and then, you could also just die, because the Protoss' army is usually getting better and better, and the Zerg's army is usually kind of stagnant with Ling, Hydra, Lurker. Oh, bye, bye, Phoenix. Bye-bye. I gotta say, I kind of expected more from the Phoenix control. They really didn't do anything. They didn't pick up Lurkers, they didn't pick up drones. Oh, well. Base trade? Base trade! Yeah, okay, apparently. This hatchery is now going to be in use for base trade, so that's actually a really good hatchery. We have a couple of force fields preemptively prepared as he realized where the army was, and this is officially a base trade, so it's Ace 1, Ace 2. I did not think how this is gonna go this way. Immortals pop up very awkwardly, they really can't help out that much. Actually, one has picked up the Warp Prism. That Warp Prism probably should have picked up a couple of probes, too. I don't know if he has probes leaving. He's trying to, but he needs to come back and actually pick them up. They're all going to die to those Lings. We have a last-ditch Mutant Edition. That's not going to work out. I don't think he had enough minerals or enough larvae. So that looks really silly. But you know what? That one Mutant can now chase the Warp Prism, so can't laugh too much. Fourth base is going to go down. Third base already down. Natural already compromised. And look how many Lurkers there are. Oh my goodness. Why so many Lurkers? No, we know why. Because he can put half of them on this ramp, little kind of choke area. He can put the rest of them up here. If he can actually get through, his Ravagers would be really, really useful. Oh no, he misses the force field. There goes his sentries. Can he warp any more in? No, he's supply blocked. Uh-oh, Bale's main is now going to be compromised. And without that main, I don't think he got any other probes out. Five here? No, we get one probe out. Okay, well, he needs a Nexus, because his main's no longer going to be useful. When all those Lurkers available in choke positions, oh, I don't know. He blinks forward to try and catch a couple of Lurkers, maybe not realizing just how many there were. So he loses a big chunk of the Stalkers, but now that Revelate is here, the Observers are here, hopefully he won't do that again, but look at this spread of Lurkers! Oh my god, his main just dying this entire time. I mean, if he could... Man, even if he could storm, like, this is now a nice concave. When they were all choked up, I was like, okay, maybe storms could, like, really bust a few of them down, but... Oh, God, and we look at the other side of the map. Silky didn't really take that much damage, to be honest. He lost a natural and a third that weren't the most important mining bases. The fourth and the fifth were, and didn't even lose his tech. So this has actually been a very poor base trade from Bales. One that he wasn't expecting, so I can't blame him. It's not like he had, like, you know, days advance notice, but still, it's going very poorly. And he can't break these Lurkers. He's trying. I mean, the Immortals and their Hardened Shield, Storms, you know, technically all these things could be, you know, perfectly microed. Something you just, you know, permanent, I suppose, like inexhaustible, but I don't think he can do it perfectly. I think eventually one Immortal will go down, and two Storms will go down, and 3 High Templars, and suddenly you're just out of things to do against the Lurkers. pretty sure this is game, but Bales just doesn't want to give up yet. I mean, he still has an army, but he definitely does not have, well, he doesn't have a probe. So he has pylons. Okay, right. So he can't move. He has an assimilator and 2 pylons. And the Spire actually survived, which I did not expect. I mean, initially it didn't really look like a huge issue because it was like 1 muta, but honestly, the mutas can now take out the Warp Prism, they can backstab and take out the pylons. I mean, they're, oh Jesus, there almost goes a pylon, but what can Bales do? He cannot take on the army, and Silky knows it, going in for the kill. All these units such low health. The Storms can only help out so much. I mean, they're hitting his own units as well with those Lings. All the Immortals are gone. That's it. GG! What a wonky end to that game. I mean, they just kind of... It's not a very big map. It's not like we see that situation all the time. They just walked around each other, and I guess Silky was a little more, like, hopeful for that base trade, probably, than Bales was, because Zergs almost always are hoping for one, but that was weird. That was fun. We're gonna look at what can be up next in terms of best of 3s. Kelzer, unfortunately, is still playing his clan war, which might start to really affect the brackets. I said basically if the brackets go far ahead enough, then it's going to be questionable. But if, say, like, you know, the other side of the bracket on his side took forever, then not a big deal. But I don't know, it's getting to that point. We still have Juggernaut Jason versus Desro, I guess, is finishing up. I'm going to give that one to Juggernaut Jason, but we'll see what Desro can do. Jon Snow versus Slayer's Boner. Mana Razor did lose to Caliber, otherwise known as Boner. 2-0. And, of course, Kelzer, who we just talked about. I guess Gosu Cham and Suppy are now going at it with a ZVZ. And they are just 1 round away from the qualifying round. So pretty close. Okay, just confirmed. Juggernaut Jason did take the 2-1 over Desro and go on to face Silky, so I'll probably just follow that. That's already ready to go. Actually, I might wait for... Did you write Slayer's Boner yet? Well, I'll get that all sorted out. I'm gonna go to a quick extended break to give my voice a rest and also to teach you guys about what TING is and what it does. So see you in a few minutes.